Hi, this is Brad Chick, and we're recording this on February 8th, 2022. And it's something I've been talking about for days, and I realized I better record it and put it out there. I am trying to get truck drivers in the United States to think tactically. There's a lot of excitement about the idea of emulating what the Canadians have done and have a convoy to Washington, D.C. I think that's a very bad idea for a whole bunch of reasons. Number one, we need action now. You know, people are talking about March 22nd, March this, March that. We need action right now. The Canadians need support now. We need to catch the momentum now. Number two, even if you can organize it, which remains to be seen, and get truckers in Washington, D.C., Washington, D.C. is not Ottawa. You're going to be facing the National Guard. I guarantee it. The criminal in chief is going to declare some kind of national emergency, and you're going to be facing serious, uh, a serious response. There will be Capitol Police, there will be local police, there will be FBI, there will be contractors of various three-letter agencies. That's their home court. They're all there, drawing huge paychecks to do nothing. And all they need is for you to walk into their trap and try to play hero on their turf. They will eat you up. Also, have you ever tried to drive around Washington, D.C.? It's not easy, and that whole area is very, very dense. You could create a lot of traffic jams there for sure, but I think it's going to be a logistic nightmare. You are not going to get support from the local people. I would say 80% of the people that live in the DC area are completely mentally gone and are absolute vaccine, lockdown, mandate, jail the unvaccinated fanatics. So Ottawa. Just so if you've never been there, Ottawa is a small city, and there's a clear road to Ottawa from the two biggest population centers in Canada. I mean, between Toronto and Montreal, Quebec, you've got a huge percentage of the population of Canada within just a few hours drive away. So as you can see, they're running into supply line problems. They're going to be really bad in DC, much worse even in Ottawa. And again, the local people are not going to jump in the car and drive down to Washington, D.C. and participate. It's not going to be like Ottawa. And they are going to tag you as January 6th Trump supporters. And let's get real here. Trump was the guy that ran the vaccine program. Okay, so if you're one of these flag waving Trump people, you missed the plot somewhere along the line. All right. So the last thing we need as a nation, and the last thing the world needs, is a bunch of people driving into Washington, D.C. with Trump flags. I mean, that is just going to be a disaster. All right. So what do I suggest instead? Well, let's say you live in Vermont and you have a truck or a tractor or a pickup or a van or a car or, some kind of vehicle. Montpelier is your capital, population 8,000. How many vehicles do you think it would take to saturate the capital of Vermont? I think there's a few families that could send enough family members to do it. So if you're a Vermont truck driver, who's causing you the pain? Yeah, DC's terrible and Biden's terrible, blah blah blah, and Fauci's terrible. But who's making the laws that are affecting you and your kids? It's the people in Montpelier. I would go to if I were, and you can even go home for lunch if you need to. Do some shopping, and then get back to the demonstration. If you're down in D.C., it's tough. These guys are living in their trucks for now. It's going on at least at the time of this recording, the 12th day. It's not fun. Makes sense though in Canada. We don't have to do that this way in the States. Let's talk about another capital. How about Albany? Yeah, Albany. One of the roots of all evil. Andrew Cuomo's stomping ground. Now we have an unelected governor who, by the way, is trying to put through a law that if you don't get vaccinated, maybe you get put away to save the rest of the population. Look it up. That's what she's working on. If I were a New York State guy and I had a truck, I wouldn't be waiting for some national caravan, crossing the country that might or might not happen in March. I would get to Albany this week. Population of Albany, 97,000. Call it 100. Population of New York State, over 20 million. And not everybody who lives in New York State is a city person. There are plenty of truckers, plenty of farmers, plenty of people with vehicles who have a statement to make. And the place for New Yorkers to make it is in Albany. And who are you going to be facing in Albany? Maybe the county sheriff. They may not want to participate. Our sheriffs have a lot of leeway. They may say, you know what, this is free speech. So Albany cops, I don't think they're going to be thrilled to bust your chops. You're not going to be facing the hornet's nest of psychopaths that you're going to find in Washington, D.C., and you're going to be able to saturate the business section of Albany very readily. It won't take a lot of vehicles. In contrast, Ottawa has about 1 million people. All right, so it's 10 times the size of Albany. And remember I said that the population of New York State is 20 million? Well, the entire population of Canada, the whole country, everybody, is only 38 million. So think of the math, it's real simple. They only have 2 times as many people as New York State has. Or you could put it this way, New York State has half as many people. Actually, yeah, half as many people within the borders of New York State as in the entire country of Canada. The truckers there are saturating a city of 1 million. New Yorkers only have to saturate a city of 100,000. Just if the numbers escape you, write them down and look at them. They're in our favor. So if you live in New York State, or you're in Western Mass or Western Connecticut, or one of those places, and you want to make a statement, Albany. Now, if you live in California, why in the world would you want to drive 3,000 miles to DC and camp out there for weeks on end? Where I guarantee you're gonna meet some formidable resistance from some federal people that are well paid and are going to do a great job of dealing with you. Right? Why not go to little old Sacramento? You don't even have to leave California. Sacramento, population 500,000. It's about half the size of Ottawa. And believe it or not, the population of California is roughly equivalent to the population of the entire country of Canada. So Californians, without leaving their state, could go to their state capital that's half the size of Ottawa. And who are you going to deal with there? Sheriffs, Sacramento police. It's gonna be not such a bad situation as you're going to find in DC. And again, you can go home for lunch or go home for the weekend or take a couple of days off and come back. You can't do that when you're 3,000 miles away from home. That's why the bad guys would love you to have a convoy to DC. It's a wonderful idea for them, not for you. Now, Sacramento's going to be kind of easy to saturate. Are there other places you could go to in California without even having to leave the state? Let's see. Let me see. How about Silicon Valley? Oh yeah. Facebook has an office in California. Oh, well, that would be interesting, wouldn't it? Palo Alto's in California, where all the venture capitalists that are running the money for all these tech companies live. That would be a very interesting place to visit, to sightsee. You want to see America. You don't want to miss out on anything. How hard do you think it would be to saturate that part of the world? Not hard at all. And then if you're in Southern California and just don't want to travel, you ever heard of Hollywood? How about Beverly Hills? How about LA, which is one of the cities of great evil, doing horrible things to its children and its citizens. Now LA is a big city. You might have to use some craft dealing with that. But everything I mentioned other than LA is simple. It's simple. Hey, you live in Washington State or Idaho or Oregon, one of those states? You know, Bill Gates has a house there in Washington. Oh yeah. Yeah, little town too. Um, wouldn't take much to saturate that part of the world. That would send a statement, wouldn't it? Um, and you can get creative. Let's say you're in the Midwest. You're in a little state like Iowa or North Dakota. How about you get together with North Dakota, South Dakota, Iowa, uh, Illinois, Wisconsin, and head to Minneapolis, or excuse me, St. Paul is the capital. Uh, they've got vaccine mandates in restaurants in St. Paul and Minneapolis. How big is St. Paul? It's a whopping 300,000 people. Not too big. And after you've done what you need to do in St. Paul, made your statement there, what maybe you could go to Wisconsin. It's not that far away. You get and take care of the capital there. And then maybe Iowa. It could be a rolling show, but one city at a time. Uh, so the point is, there are some significant downsides to going to DC. One, it's going to take forever to organize, if it ever gets organized at all. Two, if you live on the West Coast, you really want to drive 3,000 miles across the country and camp out for who knows how long, that far away from home. Three, Ottawa is not Washington, D.C. And as sinister and nefarious as the people who run Canada are, they ain't nothing compared to the bastards that operate there. And you are not going to get support from the local people. It's not going to happen. So there's a lot of downsides. On the positive side, without even leaving your state, you might not even have to leave your county. You can bring a message, a strong message, a clear message to the imbeciles and criminals who run your state and have ruined your economy and ruined the lives of countless people, injured countless people, from newborn babies who didn't get proper medical care thanks to the idiotic lockdowns, to elderly people who died alone thanks to the idiotic lockdowns. They've injured everybody and every type of person you can imagine. And they're seemingly going to get away with it. Maybe not. Maybe their political career ends. Maybe you end it. So I strongly recommend that if you're a strategist and you're working on this with other truckers, that you take a look at your home. You know, we are a country of states, and yeah, we have a federal government, and they can do all kinds of harm and all kinds of havoc. We can deal with them later. But the real pain and the real suffering is being dealt out by your state capitals and your governors and your public health officials. 90% of them don't even have the qualifications to be in the job they're in. And you can saturate these little cities with no problem, given the population these states have. The only place you might have a little trouble is in LA. So leave LA alone. Just hit Route 101 in Silicon Valley, Palo Alto. Go visit Facebook. Go visit Google. Go visit Twitter. They're all down there. They hate you. They want you gone. They want you off the planet. They want your voice silenced. They don't care if you live or die. They don't care if your business survives or fails. They don't care if your children thrive or don't thrive. Maybe it's time for you to pay a visit on them. You don't even have to leave your state. So this is my strongest recommendation. If anybody knows any truckers or trucker leaders, please give them this. Please have them at least consider it. And show me where I'm wrong, by the way. I don't think I don't think anything I've said is in error. Um, it would be really interesting to flip through the news and see city after city. By the way, local reporters are a little more honest than national reporters. Not much, but they tend to actually report what's going on. So if you go to D.C., the folks back home they won't they may not even know you're there based on how it's going to be reported. You go to the capital of your home state, I guarantee everybody's going to know what you're up to, and it's going to make a big impact. So our Canadian brothers have shown the way. They've had courage, fortitude, decency, and what they did is absolutely working. We do not have the same setup that they have. Therefore, we should have different tactics. And I think this tactic would work really, really well. And time is of the essence. Okay. The idea that this is going to get rolling in late March, how about next week? Because if we're just talking about your state and the truck drivers in your state, somebody in a state should be able to whip this together in a week. If one person, it was basically one person, someday the story will be told, did 90% of the organizing for the national convoy in Canada, I would think that there'd be somebody in each state who's inside the trucking industry, who can get on the phone, get on social media, and get this thing happening in your state, and do it now, not a month or 2 months, or the spring, or the June or whatever. We owe it to our Canadian brothers and sisters to make a show, and not just to be sitting passively while they carry the entire load. And believe me, if we're just opening up a front down here, it's going to be problems for this whole political class of lunatics that put this charade on and have injured and killed so many people. All right, that's it. I hope you listen. Hope you'll pass this along. Hope you'll consider it.